Hey guys, welcome to another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel on the way in and getting into the chat and letting me know how you guys are feeling this Tuesday afternoon, morning, or whatever it is where you're at. Listen, I got my cup of coffee. I don't know if you guys are matcha tea or coffee drinkers. We get you a bev because we're going to have a little like a little therapy session, a little chit chat forum. There's not a lot of news, like actual tangible news of bids or anything like that. So I'm not gonna pretend like there's things like that going on. Like I know a lot of people do that, but I don't. But I do feel like there are conversations being had amongst Arsenal fans around the risk that Arsenal are potentially taking, putting all their eggs in the Rodrygo basket, as well as Gyokeres basically throwing himself at us, but we're not taking that opportunity. I feel like we're getting antsy. And as he's, letting Sporting know that he doesn't want to play for them anymore and making it very obvious that he wants to play for Arsenal, why don't we just go for Gyokeres? And I see a lot of people asking those questions. And is it worth waiting on Rodrygo? Is it worth, trying to negotiate with RB Leipzig and potentially missing out on Gyokeres? Because other teams are looking at Gyokeres as well. So yeah, and I guess I want to know in the chat how confident you feel on us getting these deals done and whether or not you'd rather see your club take a risk to get the players that they really want, or take maybe an easier route and go after players that are available and easier to get but may not be as good, because it is June 24th, so it's not like preseason is starting right this second, but we know that it like it's far away until it's not. A couple of weeks will go by and then before we know it, we'll be going to preseason. So you would want some of these deals to be done, or at least, be a little bit further along than they are. Now, behind the scenes, we don't know how far along they are. We don't know what Berta is doing. But until we see that, a big go in and then advanced negotiations, it does kind of feel like we're just in the in-between zone. So I definitely now so sorry. But yeah, I want to know what you guys think because I get it. I get the anxiety. I get that some people are like, calm down. Of course, we're going to get everything done. And there's other people that are like, how could you say that? This and this is going to happen. And I kind of see both sides. But yeah, let's really get into it. Watkins, no, unless we swap for Jesus. Arsenic says, honestly, I don't expect anything until July. And I was saying this on Twitter when that, article had come out from Gary Jacob last week talking about, basically it was a brief from the club. I know some people were like, depending on what the person is saying, they'll, it's not true, but if Gary Jacob had said we're in talks for Messi, people would be fucking believing it. Sometimes it's just good news, it's reliable, bad news, it's not. And even though I do feel like the energy around that particular article was supposed to calm the fans down and to give them a comfy, warm blanket, to settle their nerves, it only infuriated the Arsenal fan base even more because, he was saying Arsenal are not worried about doing deals early, even though other people are doing deals. They feel confident that they're going to get their stuff done in July and August. They're not really concerned about being the first ones through the door. They, executives love doing deals at the end of the window. It was a briefing. It was a briefing because they had seen that Arsenal fans are not pleased, and it did the exact opposite. Because when better teams are getting deals done, it doesn't make sense that Arsenal think they're playing chess when everybody else, like they think they're playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers, right? So that brief came out, and that's when I was like, all right, we're not going to see shit until July. Probably not literally right before preseason. I know we did Zubamendi, and I know that there's some news around Kepa being done. that being said, getting a £5 million release clause done for a backup goalkeeper and finally wrapping up a deal that's been basically done since January is not really the what we're talking about. We're talking about the striker and the left wing, the striker, left wing, maybe even a defender. So we're not going to see anything until July. That's just the truth. Arsenal are not going to do any business, meaning getting deals done, until July. So they're leaving a lot to the elements. We don't really know what's going to happen until then. And if there's a deal to be done for Rodrygo, that's also not going to get done until August. That is what the reports are coming out saying, that this is a end of window deal. So we're talking about the left wing possibly not being in until the season starts, and then maybe they'll get the striker done. So how are you guys feeling? How are you guys feeling? Because ultimately, this is another massive window where Arsenal need to be serious. And, saying that you want to get the deals done in August is all good and well and fine, but are you actually going to get them done this time? Abla says, I'm giving it until preseason. I'll stay calm until then. But if we don't have them in weeks before the season starts, I'll be pissed because we need them to have a few games so they're ready to start. Yeah, 100%. I mean, we definitely need to have something done like before the season starts. I know that Arsenal, I do think, have like a sense of, this is probably not the right word, but it feels like a sense of arrogance. Like, well, do you understand that I've gotten a phone call from Political? I know you guys can't see it, but it says Political, and last time it said spam. I'm not trying to hear from whoever the fuck this is. Like, I've gotten a call that says Political, like politician Political, every day, basically since the stuff happened in Iran. Don't call my phone. Don't call my phone. But yeah, I feel like, we want to have those players in, but they almost feel confident not having them in because they probably don't feel like they're under any sort of duress, because left wing, they have Trossard and Martinelli, and they have Kai Havertz, but we're playing some really difficult games at the beginning of the season. And when you look at our record against some of these teams, Newcastle and Manchester City and Liverpool, some of the players that we're going to be relying upon to get us over the line in those games don't particularly perform well against those teams. So it's not like, oh, well, we're going to start Kai Havertz and Martinelli, we'll be just fine. Well, we've done that in the past, and we've ended up, we lose to Newcastle quite a bit. We're not necessarily really good at playing against Manchester City. I know we beat them both like last 2 times at home, but to be honest, this is going to be a different Manchester City, a re-upped with their Rodri and their Stones and all those players back in with Turkey and Reinders. So I'm sorry. Like, do you think I'm like, your country needs you? I will not be there. But yeah, I think 100% you want to get those players in, and Arsenal can't be thinking that because you have Havertz and Martinelli and Trossard that's going to be enough to beat the likes of Newcastle, City, and Liverpool. Our players just don't perform and score goals against those teams. Like, I don't know what to tell you. The only positive news is Saka, Saliba are in line for extensions, new contracts. How do they have your number? So, people sell your information. So there was a period of time, maybe like 2 months ago, where I was getting spam calls genuinely every 30 minutes. And I was like, they got me on a hook. Like, I must have answered one on accident or something, but it just triggered something. And then they were just calling. So they probably sold my number to somebody, and now they're like, we need to call you about this shit. Like, I don't want to hear about it right now. I can hear the stress in your voice, Jess. I mean, it's not even just stress. It's just like almost like fatigue. want us to be serious for once. And as much as I'm like, okay, they're trying to get things done in July and that's when preseason starts, we spent a long time waiting on things to happen last summer and nothing really came to fruition. So I know that there's a scenario in which Arsenal will feel almost confident that going without certain things is just okay because we have this player and we have that player. I wish I was in a scenario where I believed that my club was going to do what they need to do. Then I could just be like, oh, it's fine. Don't pay attention until July. But I'm like, huh? Like, and I just feel like they don't, I talked about this yesterday, that they don't really, they're not a read the room type of club. You know, they're not the standards that they uphold are not the standards that the fans uphold. And they don't think about how fans are going to think about certain things. They put out their little PR briefs after the damage has been done, but they didn't sit there before, the window started. And I think unless they're just completely like lying to us, there doesn't seem to be an acceptance that this last season was completely unacceptable because the injuries were self-inflicted. You guys knew when you got into the season that players were going to get injured. Arteta said that. And so this was a flop. No finals, no trophies, tons of injuries. You didn't bring in the players that you were supposed to. So I almost wish that they, with their actions, said that they knew that this was a poor season and a poor result, but they're going about business like they always do. And it just gives off the sense of, it's fine. What are they upset about? We finished second. We had injuries. So what's the problem? It's just get the business done. Berta perhaps is now seeing now what are you doing? Huh? Berta perhaps now seeing what might be obstacles internally to get things done. Perhaps this is why is a level of sloth-like pace in the window at this moment in time. Then it looks like all of our eggs are in the basket of Rodrygo. It does look like that's kind of where we are. Now that could be untrue, that they have other targets, but in my opinion, like, if you're okay with waiting for him to make a decision and the decision is to leave the only club that you've been at since you left Brazil, probably your dream club, and it is the biggest club in the world, you're putting a lot of faith in a big decision that's probably going to be made later on in the window. So they're talking about August. Once August rolls around, especially because Arsenal are really slow, if he decides to say, no, I'm going to stay, what are options after that? Gittins is gone. Nico Williams is gone. Barcola is not moving. Are we talking about going to that next level down? The Semenyos of the world? You don't play Champions League and qualify for Champions League to go for Semenyos. We're beyond that now. Those are the types of signings that we were doing to get to where we are right now. Those proven Premier League signings kind of thing. We're beyond that now. So we need true level raisers, and Semenyo's not that. So it does feel like all of our eggs are in that basket, which means that they have to have, because I'm thinking there is no way that you guys are waiting on this signing, this guy, and you haven't gotten some sort of indication from him and his family that they'd be open to coming. Surely you've gotten something. So yeah. Big up Jess. MLS has just been said to have signed a contract, saw it a while back. Yeah, so a couple of things. MLS new contract, that's done. And then there's also Zinchenko is no longer an option for AC Milan. And he was kind of like the main guy for a while, for them to replace Teo Hernandez, whatever. And they said he's no longer on the list. So I'm thinking that they couldn't get him to come down on his wages. And I know people were like, well, how can Liverpool get 30 million for Kwanzaa and we can't get 30 million for Zinchenko? Kwanzaa's on 30,000 pounds a week, where Kwanzaa has, played some good minutes, has, contributed to Liverpool's season as a bit part squad player, but has done well doing so. Liverpool didn't go in the next season, give him 100,000 pounds a week. They left him on like very small wages. And so Bayer Leverkusen came in and felt like they could get the deal done. Whereas for somebody like Zinchenko, it's just a completely different scenario. Like he doesn't have a lot of years left on his deal. We don't have as good of a reputation in the market. His wages are high. Like it's just a lot, So I think they kept saying that the wages were a stumbling block. The wages were a stumbling block. Once they said that, I was kind of like, usually when the wages are a stumbling block, that means that the deal doesn't get done. Maybe he ends up going to Fulham. I don't know. But yeah, it's Zinni, we're back to kind of square one unless what? The Fulham stuff. What is that? Hold on. Unless the Fulham stuff is, like, actually real. Hold on, I have to turn my speaker down. I don't know what was going on there. Um, just block the number, Jess. Like, it's a different number every time. That's the problem. It's a different number every time. Like, so, yeah. Tristan says, "Well, you do spend all day thinking about this nonsense." I don't actually spend all day thinking about this nonsense. I actually spend time thinking about it before I do the my show, but then I have other things I'm doing, so I don't spend all day thinking about it. I only follow you because you're fit and not for your football takes. Well, fair enough. Thank you for being here. I don't good for you. That's so, so true. They do not read the room. That permeates across the board. It won't change until you have more football people at board level. Sup. Get me a striker already. Plus, it may not be fair if we end up signing Sesko. Gyokeres has auditioned himself really well so far. Let's talk about that for a second. Gyokeres is going to write his own contract, sign it, and bring it to Berta's door. Because, hello, he is like wanting to leave and come to Arsenal. He's prioritized us. And I'm not saying that Sesko hasn't prioritized us. We haven't seen that he wants to go to a different club or anything, but he's chomping at the bit to come, and that's really like when you're looking at players, it is attractive to see them wanting to come to the club and prioritizing you. Do I still have the same fears about Gyokeres, and do I still have the same like, are those goals going to translate? What about the style of play? But do I like that he has the confidence to come in and be our number 9? Absolutely. Do I love that he's coming off of the back of a title win? Absolutely. He's gagging to come. Like, to me, that's just such a great trait for a player that's, wanting to come to Arsenal, or, like it's not just like oh, if we could get it done, yeah, I'll consider. Like he really wants to come. We're not really seeing that from Sesko. So but that doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't want to come. I think he's going up people's lists. If you had like, I guess concerns about Gyokeres, even if you're probably putting those concerns at the back of your mind because of the way that he's trying to get to Arsenal, it goes a long way in the fans' minds. And so, yeah, I really do like Gyokeres. I would take him or Sesko. I just wonder like if he's in a position where he's kind of really wanting to come to Arsenal, what the wages are going to be, and Sporting are willing to play ball. Should Arsenal not just pivot to Gyokeres and just get it done? Or do they really do think that they can get Sesko? I told you guys yesterday that I think it's Sesko. I think he's the number one choice. Sam J. Dean said this morning that a well-placed German source said that he knows with all certainty, essentially, that Sesko is the number one choice. But, since the window has opened, it's become what he would consider a mess. And, this is just take it with a grain of salt because we don't know who this person is, but it does kind of feel messy. It does feel like a typical Arsenal scenario where it's not just straightforward. There's so many moving parts. There's a lot of people. It's going back and forth. It's in the media. There's a lot of noise. And I don't think it's just about Arsenal. I think it's the agents. I think it's the clubs. It's everything. And so hopefully it gets straightened out really quickly, because before you know it, it's going to be time to go to preseason. But the longer this goes on, the more I'm like, can we not just get Gyokeres? Like, nothing about the way that they play has changed. Like, you guys know, I think that Sesko has a higher ceiling and Gyokeres has, is the better now. But, it's the way that he plays and stuff like that that gives me like a little bit of like a red flag. But I would be lying if I said that this wasn't making me feel like we should just go for Gyokeres, but Mafia bosses, smash up the likes, people, and big up everyone. When are you going to be on Forever Arsenal again? Ask them. Ask them. I just go when they ask me to go, so they haven't asked me to come on there for months now. So I'm not on there, so ask them. Next time you go on their show or you go in the comment section and say, when is Jess coming back? Because I haven't been asked back. I don't know when I'm going to be back on there. Otani says, show respect, people. All good to disagree with football opinions, but stay in your lane. Listen, I know that some people just watch because either they hate me or they like the way I look or, they love me. Like, either way, you're watching. So it is what it is. Like, it is what it is. Sesko doesn't really want it enough. Plus, he's worried about being back up to Havertz. Yeah, does that worry you guys that the reports coming out last summer was that he didn't feel 100% confident coming to Arsenal because he wasn't sure that he was going to be able to, take the spot off of Havertz. Now, Arteta also played his own role in that, saying that Havertz would be the starter or he was going to play a lot of minutes and you weren't guaranteed to start. Does it worry you that he didn't back himself against Havertz? Obviously, understanding that we don't know exactly how that conversation went. Let's see. Marlon said, would like to see you on a gal's channel. I haven't spoken to a gal in years. But if he asked me on, I would go on and talk to him. Josh said, we all tend to forget that players take time to know each other and click. Hold on, I have to sneeze. Oh my gosh, I felt like I was going to sneeze. They do take time to click. And Arteta, the only time that I don't want to be a liar because he did put Havertz and Rice and Timber straight in. He did. He put them straight in. The summer that we bought them. But they had a full preseason. I'm trying to remember because Kai was there when we did the skills challenge. So he was already there. I think it took Timber and Rice another game or two to get in because they both played against Manchester United. So the first thing we did was that skills challenge against MLS. And then we did MLS All-Stars. And then we went into the Manchester United games and stuff like that. So when the season started, when we played the Community Shield, they all started, so we basically have I would say you have basically 3 weeks, three weeks to get it done so that they're there for preseason, and then they can get that time to click and stuff. And even with that though, Josh, do you remember how the beginning of the season went that season? They brought those players in early and it still took until halfway through the season for it to feel like we were playing well, So it does take time and it doesn't guarantee that even if they come into preseason, that'll be perfect, but you'd rather have that than the alternative. But I do think Arsenal feel fairly confident in what they have. So they're going to probably feel like, well, we can start the season with what we have. I don't love it, but that's what it kind of feels like, right? This might be Victor's last big contract. I can see why he's getting so frustrated with Sporting. Agreed. He's in his prime. This is his one big last hurrah. And so he wants to move to a club that is on the doorstep of winning things, and he backs himself to be the 9 that's going to take us there. All of those things are incredibly attractive, but I can see why he is so frustrated because, like you said, this is his last big contract, and Sporting have been, you know, basically working against him, and they didn't honor the gentleman's agreement. It does feel like they're willing to do that now. So let's see how things pan out with him. But I really like Gyokeres, and I like that he wants to come. I just feel like Arsenal um, really want to get Sesko instead. You know, let's see. Real Madrid will assist Rodrygo if he wishes to join. Real Madrid will assist Rodrygo if he wishes to leave and to join Arsenal, given that the requested price is 90 million euros, which, like I said yesterday, is 77 million pounds. According to the player's entourage, he is currently holding discussions with English Premier League clubs. Arsenal is one of the clubs interested in him. That's coming from Lacer, so it's not coming from any of the big boys yet. But maybe the tide is changing on this one. Let's see. Arsenal are ready to wait and see whether Rodrygo is willing to leave or, da da da. So yeah, um, Arsenal in positive talks. So, but I don't see. I saw somebody. Is it Jonathan was in the chat saying that you're hearing that Arsenal can't get a striker and Rodrygo. Um, Panic settings don't start until after July the 7th. Need offers out and bids in that week. Well, time is a ticking. So what is that, like 2 weeks from now? So, yeah, I hear that. I'm muted. Am I muted? Okay, that's because I clapped. I clapped and then it yeah, it went out. Sorry, guys. Lucas says Gyökeres would be such a bad signing and would not be an Arteta player. Give Arteta what he wants and we will win. Gunner Blog said the same thing about Rodrigo. I think he's very reliable when it comes to Arsenal stuff. Um, have to sell Gabby Martinelli. Jonathan, where did you see this at? So I can go find it. If you can give me a source, then I'll go fish it out. But beginning of the window, it was Arsenal want to get left wing and striker. I'm not doing one or the other. It's a failed window. Hold on. Ew. No. Okay. Yeah. If you can tell me where to find it. Beginning of the window, left wing, striker, midfielder, defender, backup goalkeeper. That's what I'm expecting, or else it's a fail. Sorry. You guys said left wing and striker last summer and you didn't get it. So what's changed? If you guys wanted Nico Williams, you would have to pay more because his release clause would mean that it's a much bigger financial outlay in this one window than it would be to pay Rodrigo's amortized or whatever. I'm not trying to hear all that. I'm not listening. I cannot hear you. Like, I'm not hearing that. Sorry, you need to get both. Let's see. The wingers' defensive contribution has helped Arsenal concede goals for the past couple seasons. Um, this is true, but you'd be in a situation as well where you could actually concede a couple more goals if you had the type of attack that could outscore their opposition. So right now we basically need our forwards to defend for their lives because they can't score. So the easier you make it for you to score goals, and if you feel the other team scores 2 goals, you can score 4, then you don't have to worry about Saka and Martinelli running their legs off. Their calves are falling off of the bone. So I get that, but it's not a badge of honor anymore. We've had the best defense for 2 seasons, but our attack has been nowhere as good as it was, in terms of the danger that we create from open play since 22-23. I think we conceded maybe like 11 more goals, but we need to find the balance between getting close to the defense that we have now, but more of that free, fluid kind of way that we were playing in 22-23. Without that, like, it's kind of like, okay, so we defended for our lives. But could we beat Bournemouth? Could we beat Brentford? Could we score more than 1 goal against Newcastle at home? Like, it was giving, we're shit at attack. Um, let's see. Dio says, I don't care anymore if the player is or isn't an Arteta style player. We don't have a striker. Sign someone. Lynn says, hi, Jess. Hello to you as well. I'm on the Rodgers train now. Can't lie. Such a needle mover. Watch back Arsenal versus Aston Villa from this season. Well, if I speak, if I speak on why he was so good in that game against us. But listen, I told you guys this yesterday, and the Rodgers train is probably filling up quite quickly, but I don't see that train moving anywhere. You guys will be stuck on that train trying to figure out why you're not going anywhere because ain't no way that Aston Villa is going to sell their best player, one, at all, and two, to us. So we're not going to have the money to do it. 100 million, English talent, young, best player, selling to bigger clubs because it'll be Chelsea and Arsenal interested. It's not going to be an easy deal. It's just not. So I will not be on this train. I like Rodgers. He does improve us, but you guys actually really think Rodgers is going to leave Aston Villa this summer? They could sell Ollie Watkins or Leon Bailey or one of these other guys to get the money for PSR. I would have to see actual tangible like movement on that. African Soldier, thank you so much for your super chat. I really do appreciate it. Says Arteta had Emery players and he won a trophy. Since he got his players, what have we won? Um, he got his own players, but I feel like this is kind of like one of those things where I think it went through the fan base and it sounded good at the time because you know it had like a little ring to it, like a little jingle to it. Like he had Emery's team and he won, but now since he has his team, he hasn't won anything. I don't think anybody that is saying this particular thing actually believes like that team was any better. Like that team was significantly worse. We watched it with our own two eyes. It was bad when Emery had it, and it was bad when Arteta had it. The biggest difference is Arteta had only that to focus on. He didn't have to focus on anything else because we were already really poor in the league and we were not going to qualify for Europe through the league. So we needed to qualify for Europe through the FA Cup. And so being able to focus on that and also playing a style that none of us would ever want to play again. If you guys remember how we played against Manchester City and also how poor we were against Chelsea, got a little bit of luck. It's kind of like a moot point. We're much better than what we were then. And it's just much different when you're just focusing on winning a cup than when you have to focus on winning the Prem. Winning the Prem and also focusing on other things like European competition, whatever, it's just much different. So I get it. It sounds cute and it's like, oh, you got him. He can't win with his own team, but I can say that without a shadow of a doubt, this team is 100% better. And if Arteta was only required to win a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup with this team, and he can bomb in the league, bomb in the Champions League, bomb in any other competition, he would win a cup. The problem now is that he needs to beat Pep City, and Liverpool to a Premier League. He beat PSG and Real Madrid and all these teams to a Champions League. That's not the same as bombing everything else and winning an FA Cup when that's need to because you need to get into Europe. That team was ass. That team was butts. That team was so bad. We rewatched the final. We did like a classic watch along. And if you rewatch that final, this comment just seems so like that team was fun. Like it was so bad, you know? I mean, Emery didn't win anything with his own team either. He's the Europa King, and he went to a final against a Chelsea that didn't even need to win it because they had already qualified for Champions League, and we had 7 games in the league, and we just had to win one, and we didn't win any, so we had to win in Baku, and we bent over. Like, this is where I'm like, this to me doesn't mean anything. I get it. It sounds cool, and a couple of people came up with it, and but what does this mean? What does it mean? I don't really get it because that team was not better. You know it. You know that team was not better. So it's like, is Crystal Palace better than us because they won the FA Cup this season? No. Like, winning an FA Cup when you don't have anything else to do is not as hard as what we're doing now. Like, I get it, and this is coming from somebody who does not shy away from criticizing Mikel. This team is way better than that team. That team was. I'm the biggest critic of Arteta, but Arsenal wasn't good enough under Emery. People forget he bottled top four and lost the final Europa League against Chelsea 4-1. I mean, it was terrible. Otani says Arteta lacks composure in big moments, needs to go on a spiritual journey or something. I would rather Arsenal get Watkins than Sesko, and Aim should be with now mentality. I would rather Arsenal get Watkins than Sesko, and the Aim should be a win now mentality. Also, going back to what we were just talking about, the way that we played in those two games, and also attach that to the way that we started the next full season. We had bought Thomas Partey and we had bought Gabriel, and Willian was now part of the team. We started off that season playing a 3-4-3. We played some of the worst football in the world. Like, it was so bad, it was so aggressive, it was so negative. It was just about keeping the other team from beating us down. And guess what? They still did. Like, do we want to go back to that style? Do you guys want Kolasinac back? Do you guys want Mustafi back? Like, what do we mean? I would say probably the biggest difference between this team and that team, and the only thing I would take from that team is Aubameyang, because having Aubameyang gave him the ability to win that cup, singular cup, because he had somebody at the end of the day that could put the ball in the back of the net. That is one thing for sure I could say. But I mean, what do like what? I don't know. Jess, why do you think Arsenal is not seriously in for Everett Eze, sorry, he is the best player in the league, and I don't want him to go to Tottenham. I don't know because I feel if you like Rodgers, then there's no reason why you shouldn't like Eze. I know they're a little bit different because Rodgers is more of like a freight train, and Eze is more flair, but they solve the same problem. Left center mid, left wing, X factor, creative midfielder, all that jazz. And Eze is very experienced in the league. He's proven. Um, I would be devastated if he ended up at Tottenham, but at the same time, he deserves a big move. I feel like the move should be bigger, but he deserves a big move. I just maybe Arsenal have a if you were in our academy, we won't come back and get you or something like because they don't want to look like they made a mistake. But we've never really been linked to him except for like lightly in some stages. And when you buy Kai and Marino to play left center mid, you're telling me what kind of player you want playing as an attack-minded midfielder at left center mid. You have Rice, Marino, and Kai. As much as we know that we know Eze can play left wing, he's really a creative midfielder. He's a 10 that plays off the left hand side, very similarly to ESR. So I just don't think Arteta likes these types of players. I'm just going to be totally honest with you guys. I really just think it's a stylistic thing. And even though we are liking Rodgers, until you put a bid down, I'm not I'm not hearing that. Like I don't think you really want him. I think it sounds nice to put out, names like Rodgers and Elise, but you're never gonna go for those players. It just sounds good. So yeah, I don't know. I just maybe it's because he was in our academy, maybe it's a stylistic thing. It cannot be a money thing now because they've broken up the the release clause. So I don't know. Is something wrong with my mic, guys? Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me or no? Can you guys hear me? I am reading the chat. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? It's muffled? Hello, 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 hello. All right, it should be better. Okay, it should be better. Just turned it up a little bit. Should be better. Okay, because I think because I'm far away. So yeah, let me get closer. Yes, I know that Liverpool won the Premier League with top players. I'm more interested in how Liverpool play next season with new players coming in and having to adjust. And also, Slot is now known in the Premier League. Um, yeah, I just think they'll be fine. You know, I just feel like Liverpool always have enough quality to do well. So I don't know if things are going to really change for them. Um, but we shall see. Slot is a good manager. He has tons of talent in his team. He's just added Wirtz. You know, they've switched out their fullbacks. I think they're pretty much going to be fine. I'm honest. Um, let's see. Does getting a player that fits your style matter anymore, or getting the best players and adapting your play style to them? I feel the latter gets the best results. Um, well, I think it's a bit of both because you see how if somebody really does not fit the system, even if they're a good player, sometimes it's just a tough fit, you know, so I think it's a little bit of both, but I think at the end of the day, the more talent you have, the the more likely you are to win things. The system can only go so far. Um, and so like Arteta should be able to get Leao or Rodrygo and make it work. But his system is very rigid. And so I personally do think that it's probably about 70-30. You know, right here. Why don't you guys tell me? What is that? I don't know what that was. Um, adapting players to your play style is like 70%, and getting players that fit your style is like 30. Because I just feel like if you're getting a top level player, elite, you don't turn them down because they don't fit your your style or your system. You adapt the system to them. Um, so yeah, like make no mistake about it. If we get Rodrigo, he's gonna have to adapt that system to him. I'm seeing a lot of people be like, and we should accompany Rodrigo with an overlapping fullback. I was like, are you high? Are you high? Like, we're first of all, we should not need an overlapping fullback. You spend 77 million on Rodrigo. I'm not trying to hear that he needs an overlapping fullback to unlock it. And he doesn't. If you watch his clips, he don't have no overlapping fullback. Ain't nobody overlapping him. You know, it's he's more than good enough to do it on his own. You know, so shouldn't have to buy other players. You should put him into a position that gets the best out of him without other people having to unlock him. You know, and he's that type of player. You spend that amount of money, you expect that. But Arteta is going to have to modify things ever so slightly to get the best out of him. You know, he is more of a 10 on the wing. I've said that a million times. He is not like Nico Williams or Leao. You know, he's not like that. He is not a traditional winger. So you're going to have to figure out ways for him to get central. He's going to have to play a lot more like Trossard than Martinelli. But Trossard, you know, he even gets a little like lost in it, you know. So Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, you expect the player to thrive no matter what, but Arteta is also gonna have to modify things, and this is the type of player that you modify things for. Um, he's just really good, and one thing that I used to love about Arson, probably the one thing that I loved about him the most, was he was extremely adaptable and he would just focus on getting the talent in and he would just play like four or five attacking midfielders and it would just get done. He didn't need inverted fullbacks. He didn't need the perfect number six. He didn't need like obviously we would have preferred him to get some good center backs and a good DM and stuff like that. But as a rule of thumb, he would just it was the principles of play that mattered rather than having these very rigid, strict, boundaries in the system that required very specific players. He didn't have that. I thought the only thing that he struggled with, the only thing in his system that, or the type of player, it was like Ramsey on the wing. That was probably the only thing that I was like, doesn't really work as well. But for the most part, when he put him in the eight and Santi was on the wing and so, it just worked. And I think it's because the principles of play were more important than this rigid system that requires specific profiles. Right now, our system is very much so built around those two center backs, in Saliba and Gabriel, inverted fullbacks, um, especially the left-sided one, coming in and creating a third midfielder, um, and Saka and Odegaard. If those players are not there, good luck. In the six, the six, the six, Odegaard, specifically Odegaard, not any other player. Anybody else that plays there looks strange. Saka, anybody else that plays, like I feel like he needs to focus on the principles and not because he's just yeah, it's too rigid. It's too rigid. But Rodrygo is not going to be able to be shunted out to the left wing the way that Martinelli is. Um, he's different than Martinelli, where Martinelli's more of um, Martinelli is more of a striker in that position or an inside forward, and Rodrigo is more of a 10. But they both require to be closer inside. So, yeah, he's going to have to modify. Brian, thank you so much for your super chat. Brian says things won't change until the mentality of the fan base changes. I hear fans echo the same excuses that Mikel and the club make. I mean, a lot of people are very much so behind the manager. Um, they're behind the manager 110%. And so if he says something, it's true. Um, so I don't see that changing, to be honest. So let's see. Same way Arteta evolved tactics, squad priorities after 22-23 needs to be the same after this year's issues. Maybe they're thinking about this way Trossard can play in midfield across the front three. So maybe that's why they want to keep him for one more year. Yeah, we need to maximize Rodrigo. He may not need an overlapping fullback, but it will elevate his play. How did PSG become more attractive to players than Arsenal? Um, winning things. If Zuba maybe gets a long-term injury with Party gone, God help us. I don't even think it's as bad as people are making out to seem. I think they just don't want to see Party go, so they're, you know, basically catastrophizing everything. Um, I don't think it'll be as bad as you guys think. We basically stockpile on players that can play deeper in midfield. It's not going to be as bad as people think. Anchor says we need a backup for Saliba. Don't think we would get it given the injury issues of Timber and White. Yeah, we'll probably get a fullback instead. That's for sure. But listen, I see the comments are kind of slower than usual. I'm not sure if that's because my mic is still going out or what. I'm just gonna check really quick just to see what's going on. I don't know if I'm going in and out or what. This is only gonna be a short stream, but I want to make sure that we at least get to an hour. So let me just check real quick. You guys can see me. Yeah, I don't know why my mic is going in and out, apparently. Um, but listen, let's go ahead and stop it there because I was gonna end in, like, 10 minutes anyway, 8 minutes, so is it better now or no? Now it's better? Okay, I don't know what it is, so, yeah, we'll just go for another, like, 10 minutes. Um, okay, because I was, like, panicking a little bit right then. Um, if we didn't get to sign Sesko or Gyokeres, would you be happy if we end up signing Watkins? No. No, I will not. Um, I don't feel like there should be a scenario where we don't get either one. So I'll be very disappointed if we end up with Watkins. And I like Watkins. He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. He's an Arsenal fan. He's a good Premier League standard striker, but we deserve more than that. We deserve better than that. Breaking Lyon relegated to League Two. Really? Mm. Football says we don't have a backup for Odegaard and Saka. Is the plan for Ethan to cover both positions? Well, I think Arsenal are looking at right wing. They're linked to Kudus, Bakayoko, and Madweki. So none of those are left wings. So we're looking for a right winger, probably to cover for Saka so that Ethan can just cover Odegaard's position. And I think that works out a little bit better. I personally have a lot of belief in Ethan and feel like he's more than good enough to, you know, push Odegaard and also play in that position more than he did this last season. Now, I know some people don't want that, mostly because they just want Odegaard out the team, but that's just not going to happen. So we have a youngster, Hale Ender, that's, I mean, we're talking a special, special talent. Arteta's just going to have to trust him. Signing Watkins now would be crazy. Literally walked away from the deal in Jan during the title chase would be an indictment on the board. Which player attracted you to follow Arsenal, and which Arsenal jersey did you own first? Um, let's I mean, it feels so long ago. Um, but I would say it wasn't one particular player. It was probably just all the black players. I just had never seen a team full of black players before, and I was like, "This is just insane." Arsene looked like a professor or a mad scientist on the side. Like, mind you, I'm young, so I just see this guy, and he has these glasses, and I'm just like, he doesn't look like a coach. He looks like a mad scientist or something. And there's all these black players, and the team is so good, and they play great, football, and it was just great. And so it wasn't any particular player. But Vieira he was everything that, like, I felt like an Arsenal player should be. Like, I'm like, if there was somebody that I could say, "This is what an Arsenal player is," it was Vieira. The mentality, the grit, but it wasn't just like, he could be a shin kicker, like, he had that in his locker, but, you know, he had skill too. He had a lot of skill, a lot of flair. In fact, Kanu also had like an insane amount of flair as well. And what I liked was that um black players especially are usually reduced to their physical qualities. They're either just PMP or, he just runs into the channel. But I mean, the black players that we had were just phenomenal on the ball. And so, yeah, it was all the players really, but it's not just the black players either. Like, I loved Dennis Bergkamp, I loved Bobby Pires, like, I loved all those players, but that team was just so special. So it was more that. The first Arsenal kit I got, I wanna say was, like, one of the ugly fucking Puma kits, you know? That was it. But I have a bunch, and my favorite one is, um, the burgundy '02. That's my favorite kit of all time. I'm not convinced Rodrygo would outshine Martinelli in this Arsenal team. What do you mean? Like, he won't outshine him because the system is gonna hurt him? Because I feel like I'm seeing people make these excuses about why we shouldn't get Rodrygo, and like if Martinelli can't do it, then Rodrygo can't do it. But I'm just gonna hold your hand when I say this. Rodrygo is infinitely more talented than Martinelli. Like he's just more talented, more talent, more, more, more talented. So um if anything holds him back, it's gonna be the if Arteta doesn't use him correctly. But Martinelli doesn't even shine in this team. Like outshining what? Like Martinelli's not really shining. Like he's getting his chain snatched by Trossard. He's missing sitters. He's dribbling with his head down. Like all that you guys can tell me is that Martinelli runs hard and defends, and I'm not trying to hear that. So nah. Rodrygo is better player than Martinelli, guys. Let's be real. Rodrygo ain't got that dog in him like Alexis did to go and be the guy. He'll stay and wash plates for Real. If they ask him to look at him begging it on social media, forget him. Tefel says, I low key feel Rodrygo overrated, though. I'll gladly take him. We need a winger, not an inside forward or those fancy terms. We need a specialist winger. I agree, but I still want to keep Martinelli. I have a feeling he's going to prove a lot of fans wrong. We've been saying that for 2 seasons. Nothing has changed. So I don't know. Like, I'm not holding my breath. Jess, I heard that you were from Nashville. You're coming to Nashville. I don't know where you heard that, but unless there's a plane ticket that I haven't seen yet, I'm not going to Nashville. But I love Nashville and Austin. If I could move anywhere, I'd move to either one of those cities. I love them. But yeah, I mean, um, if Martinelli stays, that's fine. If he goes, that's fine. In my opinion, I'm just more interested in us getting somebody else. But um I feel like the opinion on Rodrygo is changing because people are not 100% sure we're going to get him. So it's like want to protect yourself, but Martinelli is not as talented as Rodrygo. Rodrygo has had some really big moments on the big stage. Martinelli's not really had those. I don't know. If you guys think Martinelli is better or gonna shine more, fair enough. But I don't know. Um, Tefel says, Jess, what made you do the Nigerian shirt content? You have Nigerian roots. I don't think so. I don't think I have Nigerian roots. I did the 23andMe, like the home thing kit, like the ancestry kit, and it said Nigerian, but do we 100% believe those things? I don't know. But I started I've always had this idea of doing like a series based around kits that when you see them, you see some sort of like you see kits, especially like as Arsenal fans, we know this. You'll see certain kits and it'll take you back to a moment in time. And some kits you may think are so ugly, but they end up being your favorites because you won something in it, or the bruised banana is one of those, right? And so I've been working with different companies on trying to get kits and then building the story around that specific kit. And so I did the 1996 Nigeria kit, and I have I'll give you a preview of the next one. Let's see. I don't know if you guys can see that, but this is a preview for the next one I'm doing. You guys know where I'm going with this one. So yeah, I've been, working on that for a while, and it finally came out, and I think people really like it. So I'm going to keep going, and hopefully it becomes like a big thing. But I love kits, and mostly because the story behind kits, it's not just about the fashion aspect. I love the fashion aspect, but sometimes you just look at a kit, it just takes you back. And so that's pretty much, why I did the Nigeria one. And everybody remembers the Nigerian dream team, and who can say that they beat Brazil and Argentina to win Olympic gold. Like, that's insane. And I love Kanu so much. And so obviously I wanted to put some respect on his name as well. Um, Rodrygo might be better in attack, but Martinelli's defensive growth is crucial. And see, Gunner for life, I knew that's where you were going with it. At the end of the day, when we start talking about Martinelli, the first thing people talk about is defensive work. And I feel like that's the biggest problem with Arsenal now is when we talk about our attackers, we're not talking about their X factor, their dribbling, 1v1 ability, their ball striking. We're talking about defense. So I think that that's emblematic of where we are right now as an as a club. He scored important goals against City, Chelsea, and Champions League. But some Arsenal fans still believe Martinelli is better than him. I mean, Rodrygo has some massive goals, but listen, I know that it hasn't been the best maybe year for him in Real Madrid, but I do think that we're a little deluded as fans, and I get that you're supposed to believe in your own team and your own players, but sometimes the conversations that we have to me give me like the ick because I'm like, every player that we have is so much better than everybody else's, and these players can't get in our team. And I'm like, outside of the defense, I can name about 3 players that can take each position in our team outside of defense. And maybe like Declan Rice, because wherever he plays, he's going to be in our 11. But when we genuinely start talking about the attack, I can name so many players that walk straight into that 11. Except for Saka, nobody's really holding it down like that. So I don't know why we act like our players are indispensable because they can run hard. Tefel says, my only issue with Rodrygo is his consistency. I personally believe the best winger at the moment on the market is Leao. Well, if you're concerned about Rodrygo's consistency, then you should also be concerned about Leao's consistency. I would say that's my biggest concern about Leao is he's very inconsistent. For a player that's 26, going to be 27, he's not really had more than one outstanding season in a league where, he's, I'm not saying that it's an easy league, but, it's not like he's playing in a left-hand side that's like fucked up. Like he's playing with Taylor Hernandez and Reinders. And so everything is set up, in my opinion, for him to do well. And of course, we see the highlights of him, and the highlights of him are great, but they come so few and far between. He really lacks consistency. And I was reading something the other day about why Bayern are not going for him, and it echoed everything that I feel about Leao. They're concerned about his consistency and his attitude, and those are 2 things that I just feel like if you're going to spend that much on a winger, you have to know without a shadow of a doubt that this player is going to work out. And he's a huge risk for any big side, So I think what it comes down to when it comes to Leao is that his highlights probably meet the eye test a lot better than maybe Rodrygo's. And so you see somebody that's tall and, elegant and can run really fast and has these great moments, and that feels more consistent than maybe a Rodrygo. But to be honest, they both have some inconsistency. But he's still really good, so I'm not saying that he's not good. If inconsistency is your issue with Rodrygo, then you should still have that same concern about Leao, because that's probably the main thing that is keeping him from get to the top level. Now, could Arteta change that with him? I don't know, but Leao is somebody that probably should have left AC Milan maybe 2 seasons ago, but nobody will touch him with a 10-foot pole, and I find that to be a little concerning. Leao is overrated player. Leao is a diva. I believe in Arteta something to set him straight. Okay. He's known for being inconsistent, highlights baller. Leao flatters to deceive. I've been trying to sell man on Hato all season, but all we needed was to move Martinelli to fullback. But yeah, I mean, they're not perfect, let's see. Go check his minutes played for the last 5 seasons and his numbers. He plays 40 matches every season. I don't know. It's just cannot be. I think I checked his stats like not too long ago. Um, in 2021, 22, he had 11 and 8. And then his best season was 22, 23, 15 and 8. But last season he got 9 and 9. And this season, well, 23, 24, he got 9 and 9. And 24, 25, he got 8 and 8. I don't know what your definition of the numbers are there. Maybe that's good enough, but um like we're talking about a player like he's 26. He's not young. If I go and look at like Barcola's numbers right now, 20 years old, yeah. He has 14 and 10, in his first season at PSG. Mind you, Kvaratskhelia took his spot halfway through the season. Um, let's look at who else is there. Olise, we know, is insane. What is he? 23? 23? 23 years old. Stats. Bundesliga 12 and 15. Let's look at Saka. Remember, he got 8 and 8. Saka got the same amount of GA as Leao with 10 games less. Mind you, last season, Saka got 16 and 9. The season before, he got 14 and 11. The season before, he got 11 and 7. So he has maybe 2 seasons, maybe 3 of elite output, but there's players that are much younger than him that are doing the business. Let me look up Lookman. Somebody said look up Lookman. It depends on what you consider what the number should be. And if you don't really expect high output from your winger, then that's fine. But I still feel like if you took Leao out and you gave those numbers to Anthony Gordon, you wouldn't like him as much. Lookman has 15 and 5. So he has 20 and Leao has 16. And I know a lot of people would not take Lookman. So I'm not saying that Leao is not good. I'm just saying that like his numbers are not special, but yeah. And you said like in all comps. Okay, I'll look at all comps for Leao. I'll look at all comps. He had 3 goals and 3 assists in this year's Champions League. So that's pretty good. And then the year before he had 3 and 3 in the Europa League. So, but I mean, Olise has 50 goal involvements in all competitions this season. So I don't know if that really gives him any sort of like, but again, Leao's not a bad player. He's just not consistent. He's not that consistent. I think it's just okay if you just say like, I just really like him, so I'm willing to maybe overlook some things, because I'm kind of like that one up because I really wanted Nico Williams. I couldn't really overlook the fact that he didn't have the sexiest numbers out there. He really didn't, but I just liked the player, so I could kind of look past it. It was okay. But really convinced me that Leao is some really consistent guy because he's just not, but it is what it is. But listen, guys, let's go ahead and get out of here. We've what you guys would call waffled on long enough. Make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribing to the channel on your way out. And if you guys have a chance, please like and comment on the short that I put out earlier before the stream about Nigeria's dream team. I'd spent a long time kind of putting that together, and I think it came together really well. And so if you guys have some time, please look at that and like it and comment on it if you can. And we'll definitely talk tomorrow. Hopefully something will happen, but even if it doesn't, we'll just come on and, do what we usually do, but I really enjoyed the stream. Everybody who super chatted, regular chatted, subscribed while you guys while the stream was on, thank you so much. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye guys.